The Damned don't cry when smoking causes coughing, and a dead reckoning's causing the Mission Impossible team to get elemental. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Right, we've got 4 brand new movies to talk about today. We're going to look at Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning in just a moment, and also Elemental. But first, let's take a look at The Damned Don't Cry. I've taken a little look at the old synopsis on this one. Kind of comes across to me as quite a moralistic, sensitive, emotional kind of movie.
No, that'd be it in a nutshell, for being honest. There's not going to be a clip for this one because it's entirely in, I think it's French, because it's set in Morocco and Tangiers. It's the new film from Faisal Khalifa, who directed Lynn and Lucy. It was about 4 years ago. It was a British set, I think it was Essex set story of the relationship between 2 young women, Lynn and Lucy, hence the clever title. What we've now got is something million miles removed from that. So gone is the grimy aesthetic of Essex, exchanged for the grimy aesthetic of Morocco and Tangier. This time we're following a mother and son combo. So you've got, what's her name now? It's Fatima Zahra. So Fatima Zahra is the mum. The son is Salim. He's a teenager. She's sort of middle-aged. The idea is that she, left her family home to go and, go study and become an academic, hooked up with the first drunk that came along and had an unwanted pregnancy, though she claims she was raped and her son was the result of that attack. The son doesn't know this, and when we enter into the film, they, mother and son are literally sharing a mattress in a dingy one-room flat, making ends meet however possible. She is robbed for all of her gold, and basically, this is how we discover that he is used to a life of them simply moving around nomadically. They go back to her family homestead, expecting, just to be put up, in for free accommodation kind of a thing. However, there's a family wedding going on that they've not counted on, and their arrival causes an argument during which this truth about Salim's parentage comes out, and this is how he discovers that, the story he'd been fed of his father all those years, not in fact a reality. And this causes a rift between he and his mother as they journey over to Tangiers, where her sort of secretive life of basically making ends meet through sex work also happens to overlap with him finding his way into a secretive life via sex work. And what you get is the story of the agitation and sort of simultaneous bonding that occurs between mother and son as their differences also become their similarities, and never the twain shall meet. So it's a very harrowing drama at times, but again, it's kind of a kitchen sinky type affair. You know what I mean? Like, this is not one anyone's watching for any kind of cheerfulness or optimism. This is very much about the grimy elements of the human condition. I will say the performances in there between Aisha Tabay and Abdallah Al-Hajouji, Al-Hajouji, I think his name is, who plays Salim, I think his name is. I think the relationship there and the performances between the two actors, absolutely tremendous. Now, as far as the actual aesthetic of this goes, I was brought into this. This really worked for me. I don't think this is going to be a crowd pleaser by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's as good a movie as Lynn and Lucy. But I think because there is a distance, obviously, because I think, we obviously can't relate to a drama set, in relative poverty in Morocco and Tangiers quite the same way that we would relate to a story set, and any kind of story set in Essex, for instance, because it's not our world. So we're going to inherently find more relatability in that first one than the more recent one. But I really like this. I did really go in for this. And the story of Salim sort of just finding his way almost organically, just naturally stumbling his way into this grimy subscene of sex work, as he's more or less duped into it, is quite effectively done, and his performance really sells it. I say he really doesn't know what it is he's gotten into. He's very naive about it, but the writing is really tight. The writing really holds this down, and I think the performance from Aisha Tebe as Fatima Zahra. I think the writing there walks a very, very fine line between making her an unapproachable character, but also sympathetic at the same time. And the performance, gangbusters. It's a very much a marriage between that very tightly balanced writing and a very, very honed performance. Because I say it's a very stately Arab mother kind of a performance. Like it's played in a very specific way. I mean, anyone who's spent any time in the Middle East will be able to see some parables with someone they've met at some stage in this kind of a performance. Like it is very much an Arabian mother performance. That distance, but at the same time, the affection. And I thought, genuinely, a pair of really, really great turns. Like I say, Faisal Khalifa clearly is someone to watch. There's clearly a talent there. I think this is a step down, as I say, from Lynn and Lucy, but at the same time, not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, just not necessarily a Saturday night at the multiplex crowd pleaser. So this is called The Damned Don't Cry, which seems like a way more overwrought title than this film really should come with. Like, The Damned Don't Cry, it makes me think, it made me think of The Dead Don't Die, the Jim Jarmusch zombie movie with Adam Driver from about 4 or 5 years ago.
It does sound more like a horror, to be fair.
No, it's like The Damned Don't Cry. You expect it to be a movie about, like, a priest doing exorcisms or something. But,
yes, exactly that.
So it's called The Damned Don't Cry. Yeah.
Just want to double check, this wasn't based in any way on a true story, was it?
No. This is very much a just a straight dramatic character piece, not necessarily based. I'm sure this has parables to someone's true story somewhere, but no, as far as I'm aware, this is a completely original construct.
And what about the cinematography for this? Because, Morocco, there's a potential there to have some really lovely moving shots and drone footage and all that kind of stuff. Did they use that?
No, very different spectrum to that kind of thing. So what we're talking about here is very much what I would say is a street level, kind of a drama. Like we're talking about the back streets, the dingy one-room apartments kind of thing. This is very much the slums.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Well, I mean, no millionaires in this story, I can tell you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like you say, it's not a blockbuster, but it's something that if you want to get your teeth into something serious and gritty, then this is something to watch.
I think it's counter-programming. Yeah, as counter-programming this week, I think very, very much something. It's not the counter-programming I would go for this week if you're seeking to avoid a blockbuster. But you know what? It is there, and you'll see a lot. You can see a lot worse, to be fair.
Well, if you want to go and see it, The Damned Don't Cry is in cinemas from today. We are going to talk about the brand new Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning Part 1, in just a minute. We'll see what Van thinks. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to the show. We have got another brand new movie to talk about now. Van only saw it this week. I am so excited to find out what you thought about it. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. It is out on Monday. But you've already seen it now. I don't want to ask the wrong question with this kind of thing because it's a big film. So off you go.
Off we go. Okay, so it's the 7th Mission Impossible movie, but it's part 1 of 2. So we have Dead Reckoning Part 1, and the movie literally ends with the line, end Part 1. And the setup, we know what the next one is going to be. So it's kind of like Into the Spider-Verse that way. Dead Reckoning Part 2 will follow next June. Now, as far as I understand, that's mostly filmed, and they've got like just a final few weeks to a month, I think, to wrap up on that. This was filmed during COVID. This was one of the forerunners of production during COVID, because obviously there was a famous tabloid-friendly incident whereby Tom Cruise was, literally recorded having a meltdown at staff in Venice for being seen to take their masks off. And as he said at the time, the entire industry is looking to us to set an example to prove that this can work. And you know what? He got proven right in less time than it took for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 to even reach cinemas, because what's the film that made the most money when we all came back from COVID? It was Top Gun Maverick, wasn't it? So,
Yep.
you know, you got to give it to Cruise. The man knows his craft. He really does. So, he is back as super spy Ethan Hunt, leader of the the elite. So I think they're like the flagship team of the IMF, the Impossible Missions Force, the James Bond-esque super spy team who are brought in when there's nobody else that can get the job done, and they use all the tech and all the gadgetry and all the trickery at their disposal. If you've not seen any of them at this point, you are missing out on what is effectively at this stage a better Bond series. And of course, you know, it's most remembered, I think, nowadays for, as well as Tom Cruise's very elaborate and, you know, self-performed death-defying stunts, the rubber masks that have become the staple of this franchise. The idea that everyone just, you know, reveals that they are in fact someone else underneath. This is kind of the big popularization of that. So, for our seventh one, I have to be very careful with spoilers, but to be fair, it's not really much of a twisty-turny film in that regard. The concept is pretty easy to boil down. So, Ethan Hunt is called back into action when an artificial intelligence, an AI, goes rogue on a Soviet submarine, starts invading all of the world's intelligence network and absorbing all of the secrets it can, and setting itself up as the next and most defining global threat to ever have existed. It has agents at its disposal that it aids through, you know, global security, through satellites, through CCTV, things like that. It can literally make you vanish on live CCTV by simply removing you from the shot.
Wow.
So they can't trust the technology. It can come over the phone and impersonate your voice because it's an algorithm. And so in order to actually defeat this AI, Ethan and the IMF team are forced to track down two halves of a split key. They themselves don't seem to realize what the key can open or what it unlocks, but all they know is that to defeat this AI, they need to track down the two halves of this interlocking golden key. And pivotal to their pursuit of this key is a pickpocket and a thief / con artist grifter type, played by Hayley Atwell, who Tom Cruise sort of drags along for the ride, having encountered her in the Abu Dhabi International Airport, and they wind up going on this the usual IMF Mission Impossible globe-trotting adventure that takes us to places, like I say, like Abu Dhabi, to Venice, all the way to the Orient Express through the Swiss Alps, complete with all of the death-defying stunts, all of the menacing villains, and all of the over-the-top elaborate fight scenes, action scenes, and set pieces you can possibly imagine. Now, there's not really any sort of usable dialogue-driven clips for this, so have a listen to this snippet from the trailer, which culminates in the very heavily marketed set piece, you know, that's kind of front and center for this movie, which is Tom Cruise driving a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachuting off the back of it. Have a listen.
You've no idea the power I represent. It knows your story and how it ends.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
His fate is written. Shall we write yours too?
If anything happens to them, there's no place that I won't go to kill you. That is written.
Before you introed that clip, you might have seen me laugh as you introed it, because just before you introed it, my next question was going to be, is there a moment when Ethan Hunt is riding a motorbike? Because there always is. And then you went straight into that.
Yeah, several. I mean, Ethan Hunt loves a motorbike. I mean, he didn't seem to in the first one, because everything we seem to know about the Mission Impossible series does seem to come out of from the second one onwards. Like the first one wasn't an action movie. It did have that great third act where they were on the train, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But you wouldn't have described that first movie as an action movie at all. It was more of a an espionage thriller. And they became action thrillers with the second one, with the John Woo one. Even though the second one now seems to be quite lambasted. Go on.
I think that the first one was probably based more on the series. Do you remember the series back in the day, Mission Impossible? Yeah, that's probably why, I think, because it was very similar to that. Whereas from 2 onwards, like you say, it's just action, action, action.
Well, the first one very much serves as an origin story for the Mission Impossible, for Ethan Hunt, and for Ethan Hunt and Luther, to an extent, Bing Rames's character, and how they sort of came into it. Now, this movie does harken back a lot to the first one. There is a lot of homaging to the very, very first Mission Impossible. The return of Henry Czerny as Kittredge, who you might remember is the guy in the first movie who he throws the explosive sticker onto the fish tank and runs away from him in the restaurant, like that great sequence. There's another sequence, the third act again takes place on a train like the first one, and you have a moment in it in which Kittredge is sat opposite the White Widow, or Vanessa Kirby's character, and you're thinking, this is so funny, because in the very first movie he was sat on a train in the third act opposite Vanessa Redgrave, who was her mum. So that's kind of we're really going full circle, and it kind of goes the same way. I really love this. This is top tier action filmmaking at its absolute finest. It is a solid 5-star film. I will say this: hats off to Tom Cruise. Absolutely hats off to the man, or masks off to the man, because in the same way that Top Gun Maverick was this very heavy-handed but a very well done meta text that effectively was about Tom Cruise the movie star in an era of interchangeable Chris's and superheroes. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I'm not sure if this is going to extend to Part 2 as well, but definitely Part 1, has this meta text that seems to be about Tom Cruise versus Netflix. It seems to be about Tom Cruise versus AI. Tom Cruise standing up for the good name of cinema and filmmakers and writers versus AI and ChatGPT and the algorithm. We have many, many conversations about you're going to have to face off against the algorithm. And I'm just chuckling to myself in the audience thinking, this is literally Tom Cruise taking on Netflix. This is brilliant. Now, the stunts are incredible. Of course they are. The cast, top tier, A-game stuff. It's great to see Henry Czerny back as well as Kittredge, because he was one of the most memorable characters from this whole series. All the homaging, there's a bit on a bridge in Venice, for instance, that takes you back to Prague in the very first movie, and The Fate of Kristen Scott Thomas, for instance. Brilliant stuff. New players like Pom Klementif, Shea Wiggum, all great, but standout star of this movie, Hayley Atwell. Hayley Atwell shows up to play in this, and you have not seen a breakout, next-level calling card performance in a triple A tier blockbuster on this level in years. This is something this takes you back, and this takes you back to things like, remember when you saw Cameron Diaz in The Mask in the 1990s?
Yeah.
And you were like, she's a star.
Yeah.
She's a movie star. She's going to be huge. It's worth noting, incidentally, that Cameron Diaz in her movie with Tom Cruise was not even half as good as Hayley Atwell is in her one with Tom Cruise. And they get to do the same thing where they're driving through the streets of a European country as well, being chased. Shea Wiggum, incidentally, gets a moment in this movie, like within the first sort of 10 minutes, that finally gives us something almost as good as Alec Baldwin's delivery in Rogue Nation of the line, "Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny." This time around, I think it's something along the lines of, so he's a shape-shifting, mutating, chameleonic agent of chaos. And you're thinking, yes, this is what I'm here for. It's a funny movie. It's a very, very intense movie. Like, once you get past the basic concept, you don't know where this is going. The final 10 minutes of this are put that anti-nail-biting stuff on before you go and see it. Because I was nibbling to the bone in this. The final 10 minutes of this are absolutely armchair gripping, bone rattling, nail biting stuff. This is absolute action filmmaking at its top tier finest. This is effortlessly going to walk away as, as being on everyone's top 10 of the year list, if not at the front of the queue. I thought this was absolutely superb. It looks amazing. It's sharply written. The performances are both, as I say, they do the intensity, but they do the humor quite well. Tom Cruise has never, he's back on that same movie star form that he always shows up on. Like, say what you will about Tom Cruise the man. Tom Cruise the movie star has no equal. There is a reason he is the last movie star. And if you need convincing on that, go and see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which, if this isn't the best action, if this isn't the best movie of the summer of 2023, it's going to have been an incredible year, incredible summer, because I can't imagine 2 movies this good this summer. And I say that as someone, I've watched Fast X like a dozen times. I think Fast X is one of the best movies. It doesn't even come close to this. Not even close.
I mean, that's what I wanted to hear with something like Mission Impossible, absolutely. And just a quick one, knowing that this is part 1 and there's a part 2 coming next year, can you see where the narrative's going to go, or is it left at a point where you have no idea what can happen?
We are given, because it's not like a straight cliffhanger. It's very much a 2-stage mission. And mission 1 is complete, mission 2 needs to be done. We are told what mission 2 is, and it's going to be interesting kind of how that... We know the bare bones of where it's going to go, kind of a thing. It's worth it. I mean, the only black mark I can put... It's a less annoying cliffhanger than... It's a less annoying part 1 resolution than Into the Spider-Verse, for instance. But the only black mark I could possibly put against Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is... needs a Limp Bizkit song as its theme song. That's what it needs. Only thing it's lacking. Only thing, I mean, it's a 5-star movie anyway. You might actually break the fifth tier and give it an extra half-star if they could crowbar in a new metal theme song. Get Durst and the boys back together. Give us I don't know, an updated Take a Look Around or something like that. They got to do it for the finale. Just give us another heavy-handed, awesome as hell theme song like Take a Look Around, because it's something this series did very, very well back with MI2, and I think they used Imagine Dragons Friction quite well for Fallout. By the way, I didn't really get to talk about Isai Morales as the villain in this, who's kind of the anti-Ethan, because this ties, being like a counterpoint to Part 1, does tie into Ethan's backstory a fair bit. We get a lot with him and the villain, which gives this a personal component that I don't think any of the Mission Impossible movies have had. And that is interesting to me. Mission Impossible has never lacked for great villains. They've always had great villains. But making this as personal as it is, that's really something extra. I think this is a bloody brilliant movie, and I cannot wait to see it again. Do see it on the biggest, loudest screen you can as well.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see it now, especially after what you've just said. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is out in cinemas from Monday if you want to see it. Right. Stay there.
If you choose to accept.
If you choose to accept. It almost left my mouth.
Almost. Should you choose to accept it?
Didn't go there. I didn't go there. Should have done. But we're going to look at Pixar's latest film, Elemental, in just a minute. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back. Right then, 2 more movies to talk about. Another one called Smoking Causes Coughing, which is out in cinemas from today in a moment. But let's start with the new offering from Pixar, which is Elemental. I've seen the trailer. I've got to say, Van, it looks very colourful.
It's very, very colourful. I mean, it might be one of the best-looking movies out this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, it might be the best-looking movie that we've seen in multiplexes since Avatar last Christmas. Like, quite clearly. I mean, I was literally blown away by one shot in this. So, new movie from Pixar. I think I read somewhere this is the 27th movie made by Pixar now.
Wow.
Cast your mind back. I mean, they release roughly one a year, I think. And it's, when the first Toy Story was 1995. So,
God, you made me feel really old saying that. Jeez.
Oh yeah, Toy Story is going to be 30 years old in another 2 years, so we're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Toy Story. I think by that point they'll have the 5th one out probably as well. But yeah, 27th Pixar movie. This one is written and directed by Peter Sohn, I believe, who worked on The Good Dinosaur, which was not one of their better received ones, although it was perfectly fine. It was a very lovable little movie, actually. I quite liked The Good Dinosaur. Didn't have high expectations for it, but, fair. So this is if it's closest to anything, think Zootopia or Zootropolis. Depending on. Did you ever see Zootopia, Zootropolis?
No, I haven't seen those.
Right. I mean, outside of this movie, genuinely, get that on next time you've got Albert, and he will love it, because it's the same kind of setup as this, where you've got it's a city populated by effectively just people going about their daily lives and business. Only in the case of that, they are animals, and in the case of this, they are elements. So you have 4 races of people in this. You have 4 races of people. You have fire people, you have water people, you have earth people who basically look like trees, and you have air people who are like clouds. So you've got like man-shaped clouds wearing like human clothes. And they have all of the trials and tribulations that you would associate with, you know, their respective elements. So, for instance, you know, water can extinguish fire people. Fire people can die, for instance, if they, you know, touch the water people. And so, what you get from that is this story of, first of all, it's the story of Amber, who's our fiery lead, right? She works for her father's, it's like a shop / cafe in which she serves like hot coals they serve. And we are shown, like Up style, we are shown the story of how her parents came to the Elemental City, as effectively, it's like the story of American immigration. They arrive on the boats, they get their passport stamped, they get their, you know, regional name. They get their local name, westernized name. They set up a business, build a home for themselves. Amber is born. And then, you know, like 2 minutes into the movie, we are introduced to a now, like, you know, college age Amber. And the idea is she's being groomed to take over the family business. They are presented in such a way as to basically be characterized as an East Asian family. So I think maybe Chinese Mandarin kind of a family. The family values are sort of in that sort of realm. She crosses paths with a city inspector who happens to be a water person. And through a sort of misunderstanding and him being a bit too devoted to his job and her having rage issues where she gets stressed out and literally detonates and burns everything around her, including like evaporating water people and like igniting all the tree people around her, for instance. She finds herself in a position where her father's business faces actual closure. It's going to be condemned and shut down due to like faulty pipes and faulty management and faulty infrastructure, unless she can team up with said city inspector, the water guy, to solve the mystery of how this mysterious torrent of water is being pumped into the city. This water that has found its way into her family's business, how that's leading into the city. I've got a clip for you. It's kind of like a mismatched buddy duo type thing, like Zootopia was, only not quite as dark and sinister. I've got a clip for you. This is the pair of them at the city inspector's office. And I should point out that this city inspector is an earth/tree person. So when you hear her detonate, try and imagine the actual physical aftermath of that.
Tell him what you told me about your dad and letting him down.
No, that's personal.
It really got to me. He might feel it too. Her dad will be
Nope. No.
super disappointed in her.
Stop it!
He might even be ashamed.
What are you doing?
But the main thing is, if her father can't retire, it will be all Ember's.
Stop talking!
Looks like I'm going home early today.
I love the sound of this, I've got to be honest. It sounds brilliant. I love the concept.
Yeah.
Please tell me they used a song for the soundtrack from Earth, Wind and Fire.
they did not, strangely.
Oh.
They have got, however, an excellent soundtrack. It was a really beautiful theme song in particular that I really enjoyed. It's a very moving film. At once, now it starts, it's equal parts a mediation on the American immigrant experience, but at the same time is quite an insightful depiction of interracial relationships through the prism of anthropomorphized elements, Pixar style. You know, in the same way that Zootopia, for instance, was about discrimination, was about race and xenophobia and preconceptions and racial profiling, this does the same kind of things with I mean, we're told at one point elements don't mix. I mean, read into that what you will. This is not exactly subtle in terms of its meta text. Really, really beautiful stuff. It was Ember, by the way, not Amber, hence the fire name Ember. But I thought this was absolutely beautiful film. It's one of the only times I've ever seen Sarah Phelan cry at a movie. Was in this,
and it's not even real.
I don't know. We were sat there. We saw this on Father's Day. She and I. We were sat there Sunday morning on Father's Day watching this, and she was just sobbing her eyes out. And I was quite moved by it. I was a really moving film, but it didn't break me quite that way. But I turned around at one point. She found Zara absolutely sobbing. Like, do you know what? Fair play, because you can't judge anyone for crying at a Pixar movie. It's one of those things. Everyone cries at a Pixar movie. There was also a short beforehand that serves as a sequel to Up, which makes me very, very happy.
I loved Up.
Yeah, well, you get a short before this called Carl's First Date that takes place after the events of Up, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And there's a moment in it that just moved me to absolute tears. But I cried more at the Up short than I did Elemental. But let's say Elemental is just an absolutely stunning film. It's not gone down well at the box office in the US. I think its reviews have been fine, but I think it's not made quite the money. But nothing is really at the moment. The box office is still kind of healing post-COVID. And I don't think that's a reflection of the film at all. I think this film is absolutely wonderful. The performances are great. The animation is stunning. And there's some visuals. Like I said, there's just a sequence of Ember walking towards camera down a street under a subway bridge, and the subways are built on waterways. So as the subway goes past, you get the water spilling over the sides of the overhead subway track, and it's just the most gorgeous imagery. Absolutely stunning stuff. Might genuinely be the most visually striking thing since Avatar: The Way of Water. So it seems to be just a thing for water this year. If you like Zootopia, absolutely see this. If you like Pixar in general, absolutely see this. But in terms of the story it's telling, it's one of the best mediations on interracial relationships that I've seen in a film in a very, very long time. I don't think I've seen it depicted or done this well. And bear in mind, it wasn't the central thesis of it since the Big Sick. And that wasn't exactly the main point of The Big Sick, but The Big Sick did depict that quite well. This is, I think, kind of the gold standard of how to do this. I think it's an absolutely beautiful film. I can't wait to see it again. It's not like top 5 Pixar, but it's solid A-game Pixar at the very, very least.
Well, if you want to go and see it yourself, I mean, you've sold it to me. I mean, and I've seen the trailer. It does just look, like you say, absolutely beautiful. In fact, I saw a documentary on Pixar a couple of years ago, and it might have changed slightly now, but it's probably still in the same ballpark. Apparently, it takes about a week to render 10 seconds of a Pixar movie.
Have you ever used a MacBook to render the footage that we make for this show? That takes about a week to render 10 minutes, 10 seconds.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, that did floor me because you think, hang on, the average film is 90 minutes. And it's
this is absolutely. I mean, it's next level. I mean, you can go back through every Pixar movie in sequence and watch the technology evolve. Yeah. And the constituent elements in this, when you see the water effects, when you see how fire interacts, for instance, of that, because as far as I think they had to come up with new algorithms to actually make the fire behave the way it does in this movie, and it's like nothing else. It is gorgeous. Like, absolutely, you got to see it. You've got to watch Zootopia / Zootropolis, whatever we're calling it, with Albert anyway, because he'll absolutely love it. It works for young kids as well as old. It's basically Pixar's Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but without the live action element. It's absolutely brilliant. This is very much in the vein of Zootopia.
I think he'd love this just as much as well, by the sounds of it. But if you want to go and see it, it is in cinemas from today. Right, final movie coming up, Smoking Causes Coughing. We'll see what Van thought of that one next. Stay there. Hello and welcome back. Time for one last ride. Now, throughout the recording of this show today, between each section, Van keeps saying, I cannot wait to tell you about Smoking Causes Coughing. So let's hear all about it. It's in cinemas from today. I'm completely in the blank for this. I don't know what it's about. I've not seen a trailer or anything.
Right, so it's the new movie from my favourite French filmmaker, and I didn't know he'd done this. So Quentin Dupieux, I think Dupieux, I think his name is, did a film a couple of years ago called Mandible or Mandibles, as it was translated into English, which is about two guys who befriend a giant human-sized cockroach. And it was absolutely mental. And he's now back with this movie called Smoking Causes Coughing, which is a French black comedy about a team of Power Rangers-like heroes. Okay, so spandex suits, plastic helmets like the Power Rangers, who are they fight their villains who are literally men in rubber suits like the Power Rangers did. Only when they unite their powers, they don't form a Megazord. No, they combine their powers rather like Captain Planet's Planeteers do. Only instead of deriving their powers from dinosaurs, their team is named the Tobacco Force, and they derive their powers from the chemical elements of cigarettes. And when they combine said powers, they detonate their villains by infecting them with terminal cancer until they explode in a shower of gore.
Whoa, that accelerated quickly.
That jumped off quite quick, didn't it? That escalated quickly. So they introduced them literally doing this to a man turtle on a French beach, in a French quarry, and they are then interrupted by their Zordon, who's a giant drooling rat on a screen, who they just call Chief or the Boss, who sends them on a team-building retreat so that they can bolster their powers, because one of them's having performance issues. They can bolster their powers and face off against the bad guy that they know is coming. This bad guy's on his way. He's going to be here in a few weeks. Just go and regroup, get your powers in check, and you'll be ready for him when he arrives. So they go off on their little retreat, and the movie basically just follows them, hanging out on this team-building retreat, swapping scary stories, which effectively take the form of Black Mirror-style vignettes, each with a darkly comedic bent, and starring a sort of bevy of who's who of little cameos from other Quentin Dupieux movies, including, much to my absolute celebration and joy, the most beautiful woman who has ever walked this earth, my favourite French actress, Adele Exarchopoulos. One half of the duo from Blue is the warmest colour. No joke. It's like they made her in a computer. She is just a smoke show. But she does get a cameo in this. This is absolutely hilarious. It is depraved. It is disturbing. If you do not have a strong stomach, do not in any way, shape, or form even consider watching this. Because, like I say, they detonate people using cancer powers. You know what I mean? There's a prolonged gag about a guy being fed into a wood chipper whilst conscious and talking. It's nuts. It's absolutely there's a talking fish. You know what I mean? There's all sorts in this. It's only 82 minutes long as well. It's 82? It is. Oh, it's an hour 70, so it's 77 minutes long. So it's not even a particularly long film, but it's absolutely bonkers. I sat and watched, because you got a message from me as I was watching it, if you remember. So
yeah. Oh, yes, you did.
Do you remember? I WhatsApped you. I'm like,
yeah.
You're not actually going to believe what it is that I'm watching right now. Think Power Rangers, but they give you cancer. And it's absolutely insane.
You describing it just sounds like a delirious dream you would have if you had a temperature.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like a fever dream. It is a fever dream of a French superhero comedy. Describe it.
Wow.
Really well done. I really loved it. It's one of those films that I'm just going to be showing people forever. Or it's that one that you just randomly bring up at cocktail parties, kind of thing. It's like, recommend us a film. What wouldn't I have seen? Give me something like. Or when you meet that smart ass, because this is the thing when you're a film critic, you always meet that smart ass at cocktail parties. It's like, oh, you're a film critic, are you? And they become like, it's their unspoken mission to make you look like an arse. Oh, they know more than you, kind of a thing. Like, or you meet one. They're always dips, for lack of a better term. I said DIP, dips, by the way. Not what I wanted to say, but that's what I said. You meet them. There's always one of these at every cocktail party you attend, or dinner party. And this is the one I would recommend every time now. I think it's absolutely. I always go with The Raid, incidentally, as my one, because these smart asses have never seen The Raid. But
I was going to say, That's the kind of person that would ask you what your number one film is. You'd tell them, and then they'd tell you why it shouldn't be your number one film.
Do you know what? Do you know one thing? You know when I started dating this past year, it was the one thing that used to drive me bloody mad on every first date I went on was within the first 5 minutes, the question that would be asked so you're a film critic. What's the best film you've ever seen?
Oh.
To which my answer was always, I don't know. Citizen Kane doesn't mean it's my favourite. There's a difference between the best film I've ever seen and my favourite film. They're two very, very different answers. The best film I've ever seen, The Shawshank Redemption. My favourite, Terminator 2. Not the best film I've ever seen, but it's my favourite.
Yeah.
Weird thing, but yeah. This say Smoking Causes Coughing. Absolute banger. Oh my God. This is the counter programming. If you're going to the multiplex this weekend, Mission Impossible is sold out and you don't want to see a Pixar movie. If they are showing Smoking Causes Coughing, go see this. You're going to laugh your ass off and you will thank me. You will absolutely thank me. It's deranged. You'll never forget having seen it. And you know what? You'll never look at anybody smoking a cigarette the same way again, ever.
Well, there you go. If you do want to go and see it, it's in cinemas from today. Just look out for Smoking Causes Coughing. Now, we are here next week. We are going to be back the week after, Friday, the 21st of July.
Oh, yeah.
And we know already some of the movies that we're going to be talking about because, you know which ones you're going to be watching in the next couple of weeks. So, The Secret Kingdom we'll be talking about in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is a new fantasy movie that's being put out. It's like a team-based fantasy action movie. We've also got My Name is Alfred Hitchcock, which is a documentary about, I don't know, some guy named Alf. But playing hard to get, obviously. But the biggie, and I think we've all been waiting for this for a long time. Most people know about this already, but Friday, the 21st of July, and this has been on the books for years, it's Barbenheimer Day, baby. It's the day we're finally getting to talk about Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Of course, everyone has a preferred order that they want to watch them in. I'm going to do Oppenheimer first and then Barbie if possible, but I think they'll screen them the other way around, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it's Barbenheimer Day on the 21st. I can't wait. This is going to be like when they opened Mamma Mia opposite The Dark Knight in 2008. It's just going to be, chef's kiss. That's how you structure a film release.
I want to see the Barbie movie 100% because I'm a big Dua Lipa fan, mainly. That's the reason why I love Dua Lipa. I know she's in it.
For the music, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. She's got great music.
I'm into Shakira for the music. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, that's totally what it is. Well, yeah, I follow Michelle Branch for the music on Instagram. Totally, that's what it is. Yeah.
She has got great tunes. To be fair,
she has actually. Michelle Branch is an all-time.
Yeah.
To be fair, yeah.
I would agree with that.
If my soul could sing songs, But yeah.
Well, that is all we've got time for this week. As I said, we'll return in 2 weeks. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return with Barbenheimer.
Yay!